70,000 people stood in a muddy field, soaked from hours of rain. They looked up at the sun, something you're never supposed to do, and they watched it move. Not subtly, not metaphorically. It spun like a wheel, changed colors: silver, yellow, red, blue. Then, impossibly, it seemed to break free from the sky. It plunged toward Earth, falling, growing larger, hotter. The crowd screamed. Many fell to their knees, crying out for mercy. "We're going to die," someone shouted. Then it stopped. This wasn't a private vision. 70,000 people witnessed this simultaneously, including hostile journalists from Lisbon's anti-clerical newspaper O Século, who came to mock the superstitious peasants. Their October 15, 1917, front-page article described the solar phenomenon in detail, and they couldn't explain it. Scientists, doctors, and skeptics present all testified to witnessing the same extraordinary phenomenon. Period photographs show the enormous crowd gathered and looking upward during the event. Multiple witnesses miles away, some several towns distant, reported seeing the same solar phenomenon. This is the most publicly witnessed miracle in modern history. Documented, verified, unexplained. The story began 6 months earlier. May 13, 1917. 3 shepherd children in Fatima, Portugal, were tending their sheep when they claimed a lady from heaven appeared to them. Lucia dos Santos was 10 years old. Francisco Marto, her cousin, was 9. His sister Jacinta was only 7. They were simple children from peasant families, uneducated, unremarkable. Nothing in their ordinary lives suggested what heaven was preparing to do through them. The lady appeared to them on the 13th of each month, from May through October, always at the same location, Cova da Iria, a natural depression in the hills near their village. Each time, only the children could see and hear her. The rest of the growing crowd saw nothing but 3 children kneeling, staring, speaking to what appeared to be empty air. Word spread. First dozens came, then hundreds. Local authorities grew concerned. They interrogated the children separately, trying to catch them in contradictions. In August, the administrator of Orem even imprisoned them, threatening them if they didn't recant their story. The children refused. Their accounts never changed. In September, the lady made a specific promise. She told the children, "In October, I will perform a miracle so that all may believe." Not a private miracle. Not something only the faithful would accept on faith. A public miracle. Visible. Undeniable. The date was set. October 13, 1917. The location, Cova da Iria. The purpose, so that all may believe. News spread across Portugal and beyond. Newspapers announced it, some with genuine curiosity, others with open mockery. "Come watch nothing happen," one headline sneered. But people came. They came by foot, by cart, by train. Believers came to witness heaven's promise. Skeptics came to debunk the children's claims. Journalists came for the story. Scientists came to observe. And by the morning of October 13, tens of thousands were converging on the small village of Fatima. Dawn broke gray and wet. Heavy rain fell steadily, turning the roads to mud, the fields to marsh. By mid-morning, 70,000 people filled the Cova da Iria. Think about that number. In 1917, without modern transportation or mass communication, 70,000 people traveled to a remote Portuguese village because 3 peasant children said the Virgin Mary would perform a miracle. The crowd was a cross-section of Portuguese society. Believers knelt in the mud, praying rosaries. Mockers stood with arms crossed, waiting to laugh. Journalists clutched notepads, pens ready. Among them was Avelino de Almeida, chief editor of O Século, Lisbon's most prominent anti-clerical newspaper, hostile to the church and skeptical of all religious claims. Scientists and academics scattered through the crowd, observing. Priests watched, some supportive, some investigating, all wondering what would happen. The rain poured. There was no shelter. Umbrellas proved useless against the downpour. People were soaked through clothes, hair, shoes. Water pooled around their feet. Mud clung to everything. They waited. Noon approached. The children had said the lady would appear at noon. Would anything happen, or would 70,000 people trudge home disappointed? the children exposed as frauds or deluded, the church embarrassed, the skeptics vindicated. At noon exactly, Lucia suddenly shouted, "Close your umbrellas, the lady is coming." The command was strange, unexpected. But across the vast crowd, umbrellas lowered. The three children fell to their knees, their eyes fixed on a specific spot above a small holm oak tree. The crowd saw nothing, just three children staring and speaking to empty air. This went on for about 10 minutes. The children were clearly having a conversation, responding, nodding, their faces showing wonder and reverence. But to the 70,000 watching, there was nothing there. The children later reported what Mary told them in this final apparition. She identified herself. "I am the Lady of the Rosary." She gave instructions. "Pray the Rosary daily. Do penance for sinners. Build a chapel at this location." Then she delivered a warning that would echo through the 20th century. People must not offend God anymore. He is already too much offended. The children watched her rise and disappear toward the east. Then Lucia did something that changed everything. She pointed to the sky and shouted, "Look at the sun." What happened next defies explanation. The rain stopped, not gradually, instantly. As if someone had turned off a faucet, the clouds parted. The sun appeared, clearly visible despite its normally blinding brightness. And here's where it becomes impossible. 70,000 people look directly at the sun. Normally, this is unbearable. Staring at the sun causes immediate, searing pain. It damages the retina within seconds. It blinds. But on this day, 70,000 people looked directly at the sun and felt no pain. No burning sensation. No need to look away. They just looked. Dr. Almeida Garrett, a professor of natural sciences at Coimbra University, who was present as a skeptical observer, later gave sworn testimony about what he witnessed. "The sun appeared like a disk of dull silver," he said. "It could be looked at without difficulty. It did not burn the eyes. It did not blind. Then it started moving." The church has always clarified that the sun itself did not physically leave its place in the heavens. Rather, the witnesses saw a miraculous phenomenon permitted by God. The sun appeared to spin rapidly on its axis, like a wheel rotating at tremendous speed. It spun faster and faster, emitting rays of light that shot out in all directions. Then the colors began. The sun changed from its normal appearance to silver, then to yellow, then red, then blue, then green. These weren't subtle shifts. They were vivid, unmistakable transformations. The colored light reflected onto everything, onto the faces of the 70,000 witnesses, onto the wet ground, onto the surrounding landscape. The whole world seemed to be bathed in shifting, supernatural light. This wasn't one person's experience. This wasn't a small group having a shared hallucination. 70,000 people spread across a large area, from different backgrounds, with different expectations, all saw the same thing simultaneously. The believers saw it. The skeptics saw it. The journalists saw it. The scientists saw it. They would later struggle to describe it in their different testimonies, but certain details remained consistent. The sun moved, it changed colors, and something impossible was happening. Then came the terrifying moment. After about 10 minutes of spinning and color changes, the sun appeared to do something even more dramatic. It seemed to break loose from its fixed position in the sky. It began to plunge toward Earth. Not slowly, not gently. It zigzagged downward, growing larger, appearing to accelerate straight toward the crowd. Avelino de Almeida, the skeptical journalist from O Século, would later write, "The sun trembled, made sudden, incredible movements. Outside all cosmic laws, the sun danced according to the typical expression of the people." Dr. Garrett described it more viscerally. The sun seemed to come down in a zigzag, threatening to fall upon the earth. It was a terrible moment. The crowd erupted in panic. Screams tore through the air. 70,000 people thought they were about to die. Many fell to their knees, no longer mocking or observing but crying out for mercy. Others threw themselves to the ground. Atheists and believers alike cried out to God. People confessed their sins aloud, thinking it was Judgment Day. Families embraced. Strangers grabbed each other's hands. "We're going to die," the shouts multiplied. "It's the end of the world." Some witnesses described the scene as so intense that it felt as if the sun were approaching, though no physical heat was documented. The falling sun seemed to grow larger, more threatening with each second. This lasted perhaps 2 or 3 minutes. Testimonies vary slightly on the duration. To those experiencing it, it felt like an eternity. The sun filling their vision, plunging toward them, death approaching at cosmic speed. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The sun returned to its normal position, fixed, unmoving. The normal, unbearable brightness returned. People could no longer look at it directly. It was once again the sun as it should be, as it always had been. The crowd looked around, disoriented. They were alive. The sun hadn't crashed into Earth. The world hadn't ended. But as they began to process what had just happened, they realized something else, something equally impossible. Everything was dry. The ground that had been thick mud was now dry dirt. The clothes that had been soaking wet, that had clung to their bodies with uncomfortable dampness, were completely dry. Not damp, not drying. Dry, as if the rain had never happened. As if hours had passed in those few minutes. People touched their clothes in disbelief. They examined the ground. They looked at each other. It was impossible. Yet, it had happened. The crowd descended into chaos of emotion. Believers wept openly, praising God, thanking Mary. Skeptics stood speechless, their faces blank with confusion. Journalists frantically scribbled notes, trying to capture something they couldn't understand. Scientists tried to rationalize what their eyes had seen, what their training told them was impossible. Many who had come as mockers converted on the spot. They had come to laugh. They left as believers. 2 days later, on October 15, O Seculo published its front-page article. The headline read, "How the Sun Danced at Midday in Fatima." Remember, this was an anti-clerical newspaper, hostile to the church, skeptical of religious claims. Yet their chief editor, who had witnessed the event, described everything in detail. He couldn't deny what he'd seen. The article went into specific, almost uncomfortable detail about the solar phenomenon. It was journalism's admission that something unexplainable had occurred. The testimonies multiplied. Multiple witnesses miles away, some several towns distant, reported seeing the same solar phenomenon. This detail is crucial. Mass hallucination is psychologically impossible for 70,000 people. But even if we entertained that theory, hallucinations don't occur identically to people in completely separate locations who aren't even aware they're supposed to be witnessing something unusual. The Catholic Church opened a formal investigation. This wasn't a quick approval. For 13 years, investigators interviewed hundreds of witnesses. They examined medical records, checking whether any of the 70,000 people who stared directly at the sun that day suffered eye damage. None did. Not one case of retinal damage, not one report of vision problems. Medically impossible, yet documented. In 1930s, the local bishop declared the apparitions worthy of belief, a judgment later fully embraced by the Universal Church. Of course, skeptics tried to explain it. They had to. Something happened that 70,000 people witnessed. That much was undeniable. So how could it be explained naturally? Theory 1. Mass hallucination. But hallucinations don't occur identically to 70,000 people simultaneously. They don't occur to hostile observers who came expecting nothing. They don't occur to people miles away who weren't even looking for a miracle. The mass hallucination theory collapses under basic scrutiny. Theory 2. Some kind of atmospheric phenomenon. But weather reports from that day show normal conditions after the rain stopped. No unusual atmospheric conditions were recorded. More importantly, astronomical observatories around the world did not record any solar irregularities that day. If something unusual happened to the sun itself, observatories around the world would have detected it. They didn't. The phenomenon was localized to Fatima and the surrounding area. Theory 3. Optical illusion caused by staring at the sun. But this theory has an immediate problem. Staring at the sun normally causes immediate, unbearable pain and rapid eye damage. Yet everyone could look at it without discomfort, something that should be impossible. And if it were a standard optical illusion from sun gazing, it would produce random, individual experiences, not a shared vision of the same movements and colors witnessed by all 70,000 people. Theory 4. Psychological suggestion. The children told people to look at the sun, so people imagined they saw something. But this doesn't explain the hostile skeptics and journalists who saw the same thing. It doesn't explain the distant witnesses who weren't even aware they were supposed to see anything. And it certainly doesn't explain the instant drying of soaked clothes and muddy ground. Psychological suggestion can't alter physical reality. The fact remains, no natural explanation accounts for what happened at Fatima on October 13, 1917. Not for 70,000 simultaneous witnesses. Not for the identical testimonies from distant observers. Not for the instant drying of soaked materials. Not for the ability to stare at the sun without eye damage. Not for the documentation by hostile press and skeptical scientists. Science cannot explain the miracle of the Sunday. So what does this mean? God provided evidence when it was needed. Mary had promised a public miracle so all may believe. And God delivered visible proof to 70,000 people, including those who came to mock. Faith isn't always blind. Sometimes God provides evidence. Sometimes heaven breaks through in ways that cannot be denied or explained away. The miracle authenticated everything the children had been saying for 6 months. It validated Mary's messages. Pray the rosary. Do penance for sinners. Stop offending God. Turn back to faith. If God confirmed these messages with a public miracle witnessed by tens of thousands, perhaps we should take them seriously. The miracle also demonstrates that mass conversions are possible. Many skeptics converted that day after seeing the impossible with their own eyes. One miracle changed thousands of lives in an instant. Heaven isn't distant or silent. Mary came with warnings. Yes, stop offending God. He is already too much offended. But she also came with hope. Pray, do penance, return to God. The miracle showed that heaven cares enough to intervene. Heaven speaks. Heaven provides signs when we need them. 70,000 people watched the sun dance, change colors, and plunge toward Earth. Impossible, documented. Unexplained by science, confirmed by hostile witnesses. Mary had promised a miracle. God delivered. The message of Fatima came with proof, the kind of proof that made atheist journalists write front-page articles admitting they'd witnessed something beyond natural explanation. Pray the rosary today. It's the prayer Mary specifically requested at Fatima. Take heaven's messages seriously. They didn't come as private mystical experiences that we must accept on faith alone. They came with public, verifiable, undeniable proof. 70,000 witnesses, documented by skeptics, unexplained by science. The miracle of the sun stands as testimony that heaven speaks, and when heaven speaks, we should listen.